Listening is hard, especially when you really think you're doing a good job of it. Yeah? Have you ever had that moment where listening is hard, and so you're really trying to track with somebody? They're saying something and you're trying to track with their line of thinking or what they're asking you to do or something like that. And so you get to this point, and again, tell me you've been here before, because I know I can't be the only one, where you're tracking with them and you're like, okay, so basically you're saying, and then you say what you know they're saying. And then they look at you almost offended by how wrong you are. Have you ever had this happen?
Never.
Never? I'll get married. Just kidding. Just kidding. Not really, actually. You learn a lot. But anyway, no, you have. You lie, Matt. You have. But we all have. We've all had that moment where we've been like, okay, clearly this is what you're saying. And then they're again, offended. Like, no. It's like the opposite of that almost. Anybody else? Yeah. And you're just like, how could I? Okay. But I thought you were saying this. I find communication, all joking aside, I do a lot of premarital counseling, and I definitely hit hard on communication because any time of relationships and marriage is just one of them, but communication is hard. Listening is hard. And so generally it's really helpful to have clarifying moments where you get to go ahead and go okay, just before we go any further, so what you're trying to say is this, right? It's good to have these moments where you pause and you go, let's just make sure that we're tracking together. Yeah? So, okay, we are a live church. We are now, this is week 7. We have been 6 weeks in this series on Ecclesiastes. And if you were here week 1, Jenny, I'm going to move this out of my way, and you can move it back into my way later on. Anyway, we started off week 1 by talking about how wisdom literature like Ecclesiastes is not linear, which some of us analytical types might wish it was. It's much more of a journey with twists and turns. Yes? Anybody here week 1? Remember that? Twists and turns, winding road, lots of unknown. And by the way, those of you who have been here for the last number of weeks, I can now say that the unknown amount of how many weeks are left is now known. We've got 6 more weeks left of summer. But no, 6 weeks. It's a long series, but it's going to be really good every week of it. Yes? Okay, but there's, as far as turns go, and again, some of you, I realize you weren't here throughout the whole series, that's okay. But if you look at Ecclesiastes, there's Psalms, Proverbs, and then Ecclesiastes. If you read it and you hear that the preacher is going to be, that's what it starts off with, Ecclesiastes 1. The preacher gets up to preach. We talked about in week 1, the first turn is that the preacher doesn't go, well, how are we doing, folks? And says a nice funny joke just to get everyone laughing and warmed up. Instead, the preacher starts off with vanity of vanity. Or if your translation says it this way, meaningless. Everything in this godforsaken world is meaningless. That's a little bit of a translation of mine. But you know what I'm saying? He starts off with this kind of everything is meaningless theme. Yes?
Yes.
The massive car loan you just took out to have a nice car that's reliable but also impressive out when you're driving around. Meaningless. The indulgent vacation you're still planning for this summer. Meaningless. Finding the love of your life. Meaningless. Working hard to accomplish something great in your life. Meaningless. Growing in profound wisdom. The wisdom literature author himself will say? Meaningless. Yes, you know where I'm going. Exactly. Hey, laughter. Yeah, food. But still come on midweek meal on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Make sure you RSVP. Food, meaningless. Drink, meaningless. Work? Meaningless. You still have to show up tomorrow. Wealth. Everything is meaningless. Meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Solomon basically had test run it all and reported back the disturbing news. He says everything that this world has been pitching to us, as this is what you need in order to finally feel satisfied and fulfilled and to find the ultimate joy and meaning in life. Everything the world's been pitching, Solomon reports back and says, I've tried it all and it's all ultimately smoke and mirrors. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. I'm telling you, I've tried it, and I've seen people fall for it. Don't do that. So far, this has been a hard pill to swallow, if we're being honest. To find that all these things that we have probably built up as so important in our lives, and each of us, we might have different, options we would choose, but these things that he's tried, we've all, at least one of them, been like, that's the thing for me. And he goes, I'm so sorry to let you know, but that is actually going to be meaningless. Yeah? It's like finding out as a little kid, as a little kid, at a party that you're at, where, that there was this cute, mystical little cartoon character, and instead you see them and realize that it's actually a 50-year-old something man on his 3rd divorce who still lives in his parents' basement. And reality is not what you thought it was. That's essentially what the preacher has done to us. Is gone, hey, you thought life was this? Guess again. Think again. And it has us going, I don't know what real life is. So 2 weeks ago, if you were with us, and again, we post online, so if you weren't, you can always catch up. But 2 weeks ago, we finally got to the point after we saw all of this, like, walls come crashing down, meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. We got to the part at the very end of Ecclesiastes where he says, let me tell you what is meaningful. At the end of the day, let me tell you what is actually going to give your life ultimate meaning. In this broken world, in this messed up place that we live in, here's the one thing that he landed on that is true. Fear God. And let's throw that up there. Ecclesiastes 12:13. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. So after trying all these pleasure stuff, he says, here's what really, fear God, delight in him, follow him and obey his commandments, and that will give you life. So, given the backdrop of the preacher basically arguing the whole way through his book is that pleasure and pursuit are generally just meaningless. Accomplishment and all these things, are meaningless. We would think the application will certainly then be something like this. So fear and follow God. Yeah? Track with me? And don't even waste a second caring about work or whether it's good or not, or don't waste a second thinking about pleasure because, it's meaningless anyway, or don't worry about enjoying good food or good drink or laughter or love because it's meaningless, so don't even think about it, don't even care about it. That's what we would think he's going to say. Right? Yep. Yeah? Like, so if there's a spectrum here, and that this side is like, indulge in the pleasures of life and make them your everything, and then this side is the abstain. Give it all up. Choose the monk life. Go away from all of the worldly pleasures and world itself and escape it all because none of it is meaningful. We would think he's probably going to tell us to do this one. Forsaking all of the pleasures and just giving it up and don't even care about it and don't even notice them. We would likely think that. But that's what makes Ecclesiastes so tricky for us when we read it and for so many other readers when they've gone into it. Because it's hard to listen, right? We settled that already? Yeah. It's hard to listen well, and when you're trying to do that, sometimes the person that you're listening to, and you're like, okay, I think I'm tracking with you. Then they take a turn, and you're like, what? And so we're going to look at one in chapter 2. Chapter 2, verse 18. I hated all my toil in which I toil under the sun. So far we're back to Ecclesiastes being what it is, yeah? I hated it all, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool, yet he will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. Those of you who've been with us during the series, I told you we'd repeat verses, but look at the context now that we're going to go with this. He says, this is also vanity. So I turned about and gave my heart up to despair over all the toil of my labors under the sun, because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who didn't even work for it. Yeah. This also is vanity and a great evil. What has a man from all the toil and striving of heart with which he toils beneath the sun? For all his days are full of sorrow, and his work is vexation. Even in the night his heart does not rest. This is also vanity. And that's where we've stopped sometimes when we've read this passage. But it keeps going. There is nothing better for a person that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? For to the one who pleases him, God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner, he has given the business of gathering and collecting, only to give to the one who pleases God. This is also vanity, a striving after wind. So, preacher, we were doing like interactive preaching, I was talking to somebody who's going to be guest preaching at Alive, and they were like, I noticed when you spoke at our church that you go for interaction, and I was like, I've got the best church, right, Alive? Yeah. Oh, the most interaction I've ever gotten ever, and thank you. But I said, yeah, we like to interact. So if we were interacting in church, if we were in that kind of church, you might be like, I'm sorry, preacher, time out. Because you just said that like food and drink and work are all meaningless. And then you're saying there's nothing better, honestly, than a good steak and to have a good, nice drink that's just perfectly made with it, and then to work in something that's meaningful and gives you a sense of satisfaction. There's nothing better. We'd be like, contradictions much? But that's the thing about wisdom literature. wisdom literature, and again, I know I'm trying to educate some of us on how to read different books of the Bible differently, but like Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, and Job, these are written with a style where you're not meant to just read it like a novel. You know, like a novel, you read it and you got the storyline, you got it, cool. Some really good novels, you have to read them again because you're like, oh, okay, now that I know this. But wisdom literature is definitely meant to be meditated on, marinated on. Like that good steak I was talking about, yeah? It's supposed to be meditated and marinated on where you read it through and you go, okay, I see how the beginning built up to the end. But now that I see the end, I want to kind of go back and look at the middle and the beginning, and these different parts of it inform the other parts of it, like poetry or something like that. Tracking? Yeah. So they're intertwined in a mysterious way that we're still trying to figure out as we wade through the depth of Ecclesiastes. That's like what we have going on in Ecclesiastes. Sometimes it happens over, honestly, the whole book, sometimes over a couple consecutive verses. Chapter 3, let's look together. What gain has the worker from his toil? I've seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. I perceive that there is nothing better for them than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Also, that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man. So again, after all the harsh things that the preacher has said about pleasures, didn't seem like he was the type to go ahead and turn and suggest enjoying them. But as you marinate, you see the nuance. Not only in the overall message of the book of wisdom, but also in the details that could possibly be skipped or downplayed, but actually that are critical to helping us digest this teaching and this wisdom. So I'm going to help us see it, okay? He says here that I have seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. Yeah? And then he goes on and says, He, God, has made everything beautiful in its time, which, by the way, is where we're going next week, talking about Ecclesiastes 3 and the time of things. And so I'm really excited about that. And it also says this is God's gift to man. Super important that we understand this. See, on one side, we have the idea that pleasure and accomplishment are the end-all, be-all. Everything is a means to that end of pleasure and satisfaction. And if we would be honest in church, I don't know if y'all are willing to do that this morning. My pleasure, my accomplishment, whatever, generally everything being a means to an end, it means to that end, that is my default position, naturally as a human being. Yes? We all do what makes us feel happy and accomplished. It makes us feel like we're, whatever we want to feel. On the other side, God is the greatest thing. And everything else and anything else that can be enjoyed is actually a gift from him to enjoy him through. Rather than replacing him, those things are gifts that we can enjoy God through. Learning how to live this way, friend, is one of the most critical life lessons for anyone who would seek to follow Jesus. Learning how to actually rightly steward and enjoy the gifts that God gives without replacing God with them, this is like one of the biggest things as far as discipleship goes that you could ever learn. And when it comes to fearing God and following his commandments, this is critical. So it gets us to our first of 3 points. Y'all ready for some points today? All right, 3 simple points for what it looks like for how we do that. That was necessary. The first one, framework. And that gets us actually to the title of today's message, I Can See Clearly Now. If you haven't figured it out yet, all the messages are having song titles. Yeah, you figured it out. You're like, you sound like song titles. But yeah, framework is critical. Because when we learn to receive things as a gift from the real source of life, rather than the means themselves to real life, it totally shifts how we engage with them. It totally shifts to have that different framework. It takes a framework, a new framework for us to see that through this miserable life that we're living. I don't know if you would, say it's miserable. Some would say it's a wonderful life. Go ahead and throw that up there. See, if you've seen the movie, that's not where George Bailey lands at first. His framework is kind of summed up in him saying things like, I couldn't face being cooped up for the rest of my life in a shabby little office. I want to do something big, something important. That's how they all talked in those old movies. He had ambition, but it's an ambition that came from 2 big things that I think not only this is why the story of It's a Wonderful Life is timeless, even though it's 79 years old. The reason it's timeless is because the 2 big things that were driving George Bailey to go, nah, I want more. Is the two things that we're going to see here that we also share with him sometimes. One, we believe that if importance is to be gained in this life, I've got to get away from where I am to go find it. If importance is to be gained in this life, it's not here, obviously, right? So I got to go where it is, where I am vocationally, where I am locationally, where I am financially, where I am relationally, and on and on and on. It is easy to be discontented and go, this isn't where it is. If I just had, come on, somebody. If you just had, more, or if you just had fill in the blank. Oh, if I just had this thing in my life, if I had this thing in my life, if I had that. It's often for us to think, whether we say it directly or not, that we need, in order to get peace and joy, one of three things usually, or a combination. Y'all ready for them? It's not in the notes up there, so you have to write it down. Usually it's people, place, or position. Man, if I just, and again, I was single for a long time, and so I very much know that it's one of the easiest ones to go for. If I just had Miss Right, in my case, Mr. Right in somebody else's case, if I just had that, then, or if I had the right boss, if I had the right friends around me, whatever it is, relationally, we get the people. Or if I didn't have certain people in my life. Anybody? Less is more. But we go like, oh man, if I could just change the people. Sometimes it's the place. Come on now, the grass is always greener. Listen, your house, if you just got to do a different house, your job, if you just had a different job, your church, come on somebody. If you just had a different church, it would change everything. Oh, you would find the joy and peace that you were looking for. If you're looking for a church, by the way, and you're new to Alive, welcome. We'd love to have you here. We're the best. Yeah. We're not. But anyway, like, oh man, if I could just change my place. If I could change my position. I'm not where I want to be in life. Sometimes you have these moments existentially where you look and you go, I'm not in the place where I want to be in life. And that gets to be broad. But you can just go, oh, if I could just change the direction of my life. This is why college students change their majors 25 times over. If you just change the position, then life will find its magical peace and joy. It'll just get just right. And so that's one of the things that he believed that we can fall into. But then the second one also is that once I find it, I'll finally become happy, satisfied, experienced, honored, and fulfilled, no longer restless within myself or the world. It will be like the puzzle piece just clicked. And I'll wake up and I'll go, yeah. This is the good life. This is what I worked hard for. And it'll just kind of magically happen that way. I don't know about y'all, but I know in my life there have been moments where I've fallen into this. Where I've fallen into going like, man, if I could just this. Man, if I can just get married, or man, if we could just go ahead and get a house, or man, if we could just have a child, or man, if I could just get this many people to come to the church, or if I could have this side project endeavor go this way, it's so easy for us to have this sense of like, oh, if I just get this thing, then I promise you, right? We do this. Well, I promise you, I will be contented. I will be satisfied. And once you zeroed in on that fix, once you have it, is it finally going to satisfy your yearning soul? The answer is no. Because again, as much as we look under the sun for gain, by finding hopefully the right cocktail of all the different things we want in life to have, we've recognized eventually that it never happens. It never comes. We think that once we get it, we'll be set. But the whole book of Ecclesiastes is basically the preacher going, see, the thing is, boy, I've tried all that stuff. And I don't know why the preacher suddenly talks like that, but he does. And he goes, I've tried all that, and it doesn't work. He's basically saying, I've tried every cocktail that you could try of all the pleasures of the life and getting it all. And that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. I want to use an illustration to help us really, I think, I'm borrowing this from a book that I read about Ecclesiastes, to sell the point. These look very similar. I was saying grapefruit and a softball, but grapefruit and a softball. But the reality is that while they look alike, they don't ultimately function interchangeably. Come on, somebody. I thought about bringing it back, but then I thought, Greta has had to be scared through a sermon illustration far too many times. Let's not do that again. The framework we naturally have, I think, is the one that tries to use the grapefruit as a softball. Oh, we're going to go places. And so we pick up the bat and we're like, oh yeah, if we can the framework we have of life is if I can use these things, I will finally find satisfaction and fulfillment. But you can't. It won't work. Man, swing as hard as you can. When you hit this, it is not going out of the field. It's going all over the field. But the thing is, y'all with me? Yeah. You can enjoy the grapefruit as a grapefruit. See, when you stop trying to go ahead and make it something that it's not meant to be, which is what the book of Ecclesiastes is constantly saying, it's meaningless. It's meaningless. It's not going to work. Oh yeah, but if I just have this, and again, we can fall into this so easily that we don't even think we're thinking this way, but we live in such ways sometimes where we chase things as if we can get them, we'll finally be contented. The preacher is basically going, let's try a new framework where the grapefruit, after you've realized what life is really about, follow God, fear God, and obey His commandments. Then you get to look at the grapefruit and go, I could eat and enjoy this as a grapefruit. You quit looking under the sun for satisfaction rather than you look beyond the sun. You look at the one who made you, the Savior of the world, and then once you've gotten that rightly aligned, you can begin to really appreciate and engage with all the stuff that is under the sun, including accomplishments and pleasures. Life's pleasures then can take on all new flavors when we learn to enjoy them and savor them as sweet gifts from God, the God that we're devoted to, rather than things that are meant to kind of be the things that we are devoted to themselves. See, when gifts can be from God rather than replace God, that as our framework, a real joy can begin to be found in what otherwise would maybe not be as joyful. We're seeing God as we engage in this world of His. We're looking and going, oh, what a beautiful moment this is right here. This sunset. Do I need to change? I'm hearing a little ring. Okay. I think we end up seizing the day. Yeah? To use a classic carpe diem. But whereas seizing the day before this worldview and this framework was grab the world by the reins and make it do what you want it to do. Carpe diem. You make it do what you want it to do. Instead, it's actually much more open-handed and going, I want to seize the day. I want to take whatever God has for me and receive it as a gift and enjoy it with open hands and humility that go, wow, God, thanks for this. See, when the Westminster Shorter Catechism instructs us of our purpose in life is to glorify God and enjoy God forever. In case you don't know the Westminster Shorter Catechism, the book of Ecclesiastes goes, okay, but where do we do that? Where do we enjoy God and or glorify God and enjoy Him forever? And Ecclesiastes goes, right here under the sun. And then if we go, well, how do we glorify God and enjoy Him forever when we're living in a world cluttered with meaninglessness and all kinds of futility? And the preacher will go, by abiding in God right where you are, and then receiving from God the power to be able to enjoy where you are for where it actually is. Which gets us to the second piece. Now that we talked about framework, once we have the right framework, God calls us to acceptance. That's number 2. And if you read Ecclesiastes enough times, you'll get to this theme where you see him say some of the same things over and over again, and one of them is lot in life. Like, this is your lot in life. Yeah? So this is your lot, and it's easy to view this in a fatalistic way, where basically it's this resigned capitulation to, sorry, Sterling, it's getting no better for you. That's all you got. Boomer. Yeah, he's like, thanks for picking on me. But, that's what we can think lot in life could mean. It's just like, yep, that's the way things are, and you have absolutely no control over it at all, so stinks to be you, but that's what you got. You're finite and you're limited, and this is what you've been given, and it sucks if you can say that. I don't know, but it's what you got. So nothing you can do about it. It's just your lot in life. Accept it. Now, that's not what I think the preacher means by talking about lot in life, and that is certainly not what I mean by acceptance, okay? Here's what I think when we focus on the right thing, we see that it's not futility, it's about what's fitting. That's what lot in life is about. Look at Ecclesiastes 5. We're going to read in through chapter 6 here. Behold, what I have seen to be good and fitting, not futility, fitting, is to eat and drink and find enjoyment. Real quick side note, that find enjoyment, we're going to look at this verse again later on. We're going to see that it says see good. It could also be, if you have a Bible that you're opening up right now, there could be a footnote that says that can also mean see good. We'll get to that. Remember that for the next point, okay? Do you promise you'll remember it? Some of you are like, nah, I forget stuff, okay? Listening is hard, right? Okay, anyway, in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, the few days of his life that God has given him, for this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them, so important, and to accept his and rejoice in his toil, this is the gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. Now, there's an unfortunate chapter break here. If you, again, are reading through the Bible right now in hand, there's a chapter break that's potentially going to draw us from seeing the connection with what keeps on going. But since we've already broke, let's go ahead and take a pause real quickly. What we've just seen is that God gives his children gifts and these things, these things in life, and then the power to enjoy them so that they would enjoy them. Yes, that's what it was. See, he gives them the things and he gives them the power to enjoy them so that they would be enjoyed. That we would realize the lot in life is a profound gift from God. And this is how, by the way, Paul, which we're going to get more into next week when we talk about time, but Paul in his book will say about he can do all things through Christ to give him strength, because he's looking and going, I can see this as a gift from God. I can receive this as a gift from God. And God gives him the ability to enjoy things that others would go, well, it's not perfect. No, it's not perfect. It doesn't mean, by the way, y'all with me?
Yes.
That we necessarily do nothing and don't try to make things happen. Because quite frankly, in our Bibles, laziness is called out a lot. And so this idea of like acceptance meaning like, well, this is your lot in life, so don't do anything about it. Don't have God-given dreams or pursuits, or let God change things that you thought you were going to do, and he makes great things happen in and through you. Pray big prayers. This is not what I'm saying, yes? But what I'm saying is it's contrasted with the way that the world can live, and we can live outside of realizing that this is a gift from God, which is exactly what it gets into chapter 6. So chapter 6 then starts off, same flow of thought. He contrasts it and says, there is an evil that I've seen under the sun, and it lies heavy on mankind. A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions, and honor, the same things he just talked about, yeah? So that he lacks nothing of all that he desires. This is the guy, it's a wonderful life. He landed. Yet God does not give him power to enjoy them, which is a way of saying, and yet this guy looks at everything he desired and wanted and goes, never enough. But a stranger enjoys them. This is vanity, is a grievous evil. Keeps going. If a man fathers 100 children and lives many years, so that the days of his years are many, but his soul is not satisfied with life's good things, and he also has no burial, I say that a stillborn child is better off than he. For it comes in vanity, and it goes in darkness, and in darkness its name is covered. Keep going. Moreover, it has not seen the sun or known anything, yet it finds rest rather than he. It's a pretty intense metaphor, I grant you that. But what he's basically going is like, a child who's never seen this world is able to at least go, well, yeah, you never got to see anything to enjoy. And the guy who had it all and couldn't enjoy it, that guy's worse off. Right. Because you had things to enjoy, and God gave them to you. And you went, oh, well, no. Anyway, even though he should live 1,000 years twice over, yet enjoy no good, do not all go to the one place? All the toil of man is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. For what advantage has the wise man over the fool? And what does the poor man have who knows how to conduct himself before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the appetite. This also is vanity and a striving after the wind. That last line reminds me of the better a bird in hand than two in the bush. Some of you old folks, you know that one, yeah. But it's literally, that's what he's getting at. Is like, the problem is, the wisdom rather is, better to enjoy what you have than spending all of your energy constantly, and all of your time, and all of your focus constantly chasing after what you don't yet. Better to stop and have moments where acceptance isn't some numb resignation, or pointless apathy of like you don't care anymore, but instead you care and you go, I actually think that God wants me to enjoy some of this here and now. I do care. I'm not apathetic. I'm paying attention to what's going on. These are good gifts. You know, meaningless in in this book is called Hevel, and it's basically this just riptide that rips through us. Anybody, you know, this time of year especially, we talk about riptides. You're going out swimming just thinking you're going to have a good time in the ocean, and all of a sudden the riptide starts grabbing at you. And that's what he's basically saying. He's like, oh yeah, meaningless. It just pulls at you like a riptide. And then I think what he's saying here is basically stop fighting it and go with it. This isn't going to be, it's not going to be the meaning of my life. Instead, I'm going to go with it and realize that, see, Paul gets into this wisdom in 1 Corinthians 7:17. He says, only let each person lead the life that the Lord has assigned to him and to which God has called him. This is my rule in all the churches. And then even later on when he writes to Timothy in that book, he says, but godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world, which, by the way, we're not going to get to, but that's something in Ecclesiastes as well, and Job. Wisdom says, you came naked into this world, and naked you'll return. You brought nothing with you, and you'll bring nothing out of this with you. And so godliness is critical. Can't miss that one. Yeah. But it makes a really good pairing, if you will, with contentment. When you have godliness, when you have this fear of God, and you go, I'm submitted to Jesus. He has done everything to earn it. Come on, somebody. So I'm submitted to him. He is Lord of my life. But you know, that really then allows me to have a contentment in this life that I wouldn't have otherwise. We lead the life that God has assigned to us, and that is able to then be enough. See, one of the biggest struggles in life, somebody's going to preach this with me, is that the goalposts keep moving. Isn't that funny how that works? We have this idea of like, okay, this is what I'm needing in life, this is what I'm chasing in life, and then you get close to it even, you don't even get to it, right? You get close to it usually is all it takes. And 5 steps forward has you now 10 steps further from it. Because it keeps on moving and moving. When you get there, it suddenly is not there. I quoted this book, Psychology of Money, earlier in the series, and he's got this great quote. It gets dangerous when the taste of having more money, more power, more prestige, increase ambition faster than satisfaction. Getting that makes you just want more. We've had that before. That's why nobody usually gets to a point where they're like, I don't honestly want to get more influence or more money or more things. We generally are kind of like, oh, I still want more, I still want more, I still want more. And then in this book, he actually tells a poignant story about Kurt Vonnegut. Anybody know? Yeah, the author Kurt Vonnegut. And he's at a party with his pal Joseph Heller. And at this party, the party being hosted by a hedge fund manager, Vonnegut looks at Heller and goes, do you know that this hedge fund manager guy throwing the party today, he's made more money in one single day than you've made with Catch-22? If you've heard of the book, that was Heller's like big book. He's like, he's made more money in one day than you've made with that book in its whole lifetime so far. Vonnegut, what a buzzkill. What a friend, what a pal. But you know what Heller looks back at him and says? He says, yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough. Right? That's how it works, by the way, with godliness, with contentment. That's how it becomes what God told us it was, great gain. Because you realize the beauty of God's gifts of contentment is that it means this: joy can grow without any of my measurables needing to. Come on, somebody. If we're following Jesus, then it means that my joy can grow without any of my measurables needing to. I don't need to make more money to have more joy. I don't need to have more friends, more influence, better, toys and trinkets and circumstances. In fact, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Because Christ is continuing to abide in me and I'm abiding in him. And if we live that kind of life, I can find a joy that allows me to go, oh man, this is all a gift. If it was here today, gone tomorrow, it was still here today. What a gift it was. Sometimes the greatest gift is to figure out how to properly receive what we've already been given. And realizing that God's joy can actually be found with us right here in our lot. So since lot is one of the key words, I wanted to go ahead and give us an acronym to maybe real quickly understand lot and how we can understand it. Yeah? Ready? Okay. L, limitations aren't the worst thing. As you recognize your lot in life and the fact that it means that you're limited, because that's what you are you not? Yeah? Limitations aren't the worst thing. It's easy in life to become fixated on what we don't have, what we can't do, what we wish we had, what isn't. But truth is, you can actually do a lot with a lot. Right? There's a power for enjoyment that comes when you move past being fixated on what God hasn't given you or hasn't done, and instead on so far what he has. And on what you can do with it to be faithful here and now. I would much rather be a person that God looks and sees going, thank you, let me be faithful stewarding this, than rather than going, God, you keep on not giving me enough and complaining to him. So limitations are not the worst thing. O is that only God has all the ultimate power and say. That's part of recognizing our lot, which is definitely key, because you and I don't have ultimate power and say. And that's part of recognizing our lot in life, is recognizing that as much as we try to. Anybody else? We find in moments that actually, I guess I don't have as much power and say as I thought I did. And so when we surrender to him and we're abiding in him, that reality is comforting rather than frustrating. Yeah. So rather than going, oh, why is God not giving me ultimate power? No, my God has ultimate power. Oh, okay. I'm accepting my lot in life much better that way. T, finally, taking it moment by moment is a path to peace. Part of accepting your lot in life is by going, you do not have to figure all of life out, your life even, all out right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just serenity prayer. Isn't that freeing? To kind of just go, okay, maybe have the 5-year plan, but also you have no idea what's going to happen in 5 years. So, but here's the thing. Yes, it's about living in the moment, but you know what? You don't have to just follow Jesus to live in the moment. So we have to be clear about what we do mean. Because the nihilist will live in the moment. And in the moment go, meaningless, meaningless. And laugh at anybody who tries to make any meaning out of the moment because nothing matters at all. And then the cynic will live in the moment and they'll mock any pretenses that anyone tries to have. Or the hedonist, they live in the moment because this is all we got. So let's just kind of take and use this to kind of make something of life. Instead, it's a means of seeing each moment as a moment where God pursues us among the pots and the pans and the dirty diapers or the spreadsheets and the customers that we wish customers and the sales reports and the commute that we hate, that God's actually right there meeting us in the midst of it. That's what it is that I can take this moment and recognize God is here in this moment meeting me. This is my reality. This is my lot in life. And this is a gift then from God. There's something of God here, not materially, but experientially. I can experience God in this moment right here, in the midst of this mundane moment. This is my lot in life. This is what God has given me. I'm the only one who gets to do this, like this, right here and right now. No sense for longing of days of old or the future days, because the preacher will say in Ecclesiastes 7, say not, why were the former days better than these? For it's not wisdom that you ask this. Wisdom is found in accepting that in this very moment, there's a peace coming from God that is a gift from him. Which gets us to our third and final piece of today, which is D, delight. Again, it's strange to think that the preacher had us look at all this stuff, it seems like earlier in his book with disgust. Oh, wealth and money and food and drink and work and all these things. And now instead of disgust, he's going, no, delight. But it really is, like, that's just it. A lot of Ecclesiastes reads like it's disclaimers. Like, just to be clear, food, drink, enjoyment, they can't satisfy your soul. Your soul is what he's saying. But essentially then he's saying, but if your soul is satisfied in the Lord, there's not much better than enjoying his gifts. Once you've found your soul satisfaction in Jesus, he says, oh man, life's so much sweeter. It tastes so much better. Ecclesiastes 2. There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God, for apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? For the one who pleases him, God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner, he has given the business of gathering and collecting, only to give to one who pleases God. This also is vanity and a striving after wind. So I want you to notice these two things. We went and reread it so you could see, again, one, apart from God, you don't got this. That's what he says. Apart from God, these things don't exist for you, but when you are abiding in God, these things are gifts that he makes available to you. That then, the second thing, you can find enjoyment, right? You can find enjoyment, which I told you earlier, remember, also means see good. So I think a big part of finding enjoyment in your life is instead of seeing what some of us naturally see when we look at our life, seeing good instead. Anybody? Come on, some of us. Some of us are really good at seeing where anything could be better. But instead he says, why don't you see the good? I would argue then, based off this, what we just saw, that delight is a spiritual discipline. That contentment is something that you sometimes need to contend for. That's good. But as you're relying on Jesus and you're going, Lord, help me to be contented in this moment. Help me to find you in this moment. And by finding you in this moment, being able to see what you have for me, if you want me to move in any way, but also be contented that you're here with me. And that this is a gift from you. We must contend because delighting is part of God's design for us. Said rather intensely, the preacher in chapter 8 is going to say, I commend joy, for man has nothing better under the sun. but to eat and drink and be joyful. For this will go with him in his toil through the days of his life that God has given him under the sun. The truth is that God expects us to mourn, to lament, to pray for him to do things that haven't been done yet. God expects all those things. Yes?
Yes.
But also to find contentment. To go ahead and look and go, that is a beautiful sunset. And to be able to enjoy it as that. To be able to enjoy a warm smile or hug, a good drink, delicious food, to enjoy poetry, to enjoy friendships, to enjoy and savor work that is meaningful. Our senses exist as a means for us to delight in this life so that we can turn and use it to glorify God. So Ecclesiastes isn't as depressing as I thought it was. Because truly following God is meant to move us from consumerism, which is what he goes after, and basically using things. Because that's the thing, consumerism, and I'm actually going to quote Mark Buchanan, one of my favorite authors. He nails it so well. He says consumerism teaches us not to value things too much, which is what we think it would be. Consumerism was we're consumed in things. No, it values them too little, because we forget how to treasure and to savor. The pressure of constant wanting dissipates all gratitude. The weight of restless craving plunders all enjoyment. That's why consumerism is broken. It's not because it values things too much, it values them too little. By grounding ourselves in the Lord, we all of a sudden have a way to go ahead and go, as long as I have breath in my lungs on this earth, I'm going to look to see good, and I'm going to enjoy it, not as the means to a good life, but as just part of the good life that my good God has given me. Which is the only way that I know how to make sense of this final verse that we look at here in chapter 9. He says, go, eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart. For God has already approved of what you do, which, by the way, I can only make sense of that if God is the one leading you into those things. Rather than like, oh, yeah, God loves what you... It's under the framework of God has led you to this. Let your garments be always white. Let not oil be lacking on your head. It's almost like he's putting a blessing on them. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love. All the days of your vain life that he has given you under the sun. He's got to throw that vain in there, right? Because that is your portion in life. And in your toil at which you toil under the sun, whatever your hand finds to do it with your might. For there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol to which you are going. Again, just twists and turns. He's basically saying, hey, listen, when you die, you don't get to live on this life anymore like it's done. So enjoy this moment. So whatever God has chosen to give you. And here's the thing. For some of us in this room, there are gifts that God has chosen to give you that he has not given to some of us other people. And one of the things that it constantly talks about us not doing is coveting and envying. So if God has it for you, eventually, great. And if he doesn't, okay. I'm not making light of any of that. I'm just saying that what we get to do from what we just saw here is we have a framework that changes everything. We've had to work hard for it in this series, but we got to a framework of none of this stuff was going to ever give me joy. I wanted it to go really far, but if I hit it with that, it's not going far. You can keep on trying and trying and trying to hit it out of the park, but it's meaningless. Everything's meaningless. But once I find my meaning in Jesus, I can suddenly then cut this open and enjoy it for what it actually was meant to be. I can start to look at life and go, you know what? I find a contentment and a peace that I didn't find before. As we're about to sing, it is well with my soul. Not because my circumstances have made it so how could it not be? But because my Jesus is with me in every high and every low. The one thing I want you to get from today is that the wonder of God's gift of contentment is that it can change your life without even changing your life. Again, we think, oh man, I'll be contented and I'll have contentment once God's gift. You saw that over and over again in the verses we looked at, right? It's God's gift to us. It's God's gift to us. Some of us today, I'm begging you, put your hands out and receive the gift that God has for you to be contented with where you're at, with what he's given you, with who you are, with what he's doing in your life, and also knowing that he's not done with you. Come on, somebody. You're still here. He's not done with you yet. But whatever he has for you will best be received when you can look and go, if I only have him, I have enough. And so, with each passing fad, framework, acceptance, delight, Y'all catch the acronym? With each passing fad that comes and goes, I've got a better fad. Framework, acceptance, delight. I've got a framework that helps me to see things differently than I did before. I've got acceptance that says, this is my lot in life. That's okay. And I've got a delight that goes, and I'm not just saying okay, I'm going, oh, look at God. God gave me this small little thing. And that's the application I have for us today. I was thinking about how do I end this? I'm going to challenge you as the worship team comes up. I'm going to challenge you to whatever you eat this next week to enjoy it more than you have before. And what I don't mean, by the way, is that gluttony is not a sin. It is. I mean, actually, instead of just gluttony and just kind of gorging yourself, what if we looked at food and was like, oh, what a gift that God has given me taste buds. And here's the thing, I don't, there are people that don't have taste buds or that have had issues that were tasting. I know because what a gift it is, and sometimes until they're gone, we don't really realize how much these gifts matter. But that I can taste food. What a gift it is to have meaningful people in my life. To have friendship, family. And again, some of us immediately, it's just we're wired to go, I don't have. I wish I had. No. Savor a good thunderstorm this week. I promise you will have one or two. Or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. Savor a car ride. Savor a report that you have to get in to somebody who needs it to you. Savor a moment of waking up because your kid is crying again, but your kid is there. Savor a moment of recognizing that you have the scriptures in your language. Savor a moment of praying to God and recognizing that you serve a God who's not then looking at you going, what are you doing for me? Who just invites you to be with him. Savor the moments, not because, again, we need them to be God. No, but because God has already given them to us. He is enough. And he's given us these things to enjoy. So the application for us this week is kind of simple, but also I think going to be a challenge for some of us. That's why I'm challenging you here. May we be the people who have the power that God has given us to actually, really, truly enjoy this life that he's given us. Let's pray. God, my first request as I come to you and recognize you as the one who calls people to yourself. Lord, if there's anybody in the room today that does not yet have a relationship with you, that is not to that place where, they know that their heart's satisfaction is in Jesus. That there's no competing gods and things that they're chasing in life to try and build their life around it. If there's anyone in this room that is that you're drawing to yourself because you're helping them to realize none of that stuff was going to make life what it needs to be. None of that stuff would truly satisfy. Lord, I pray that you would be the God of salvation that you are and save some souls today. Help us to recognize if any of us are that person, that there is nothing better than surrendering to Jesus. Recognizing that what you did at the cross was for us to make the only way that was possible for us to be right with God. In light of all the things, all the sin in our life and the way that God is perfect, that was the only way, but you did it because you love us. So God, I pray that there would be a surrender to Jesus for all of us. And that as we surrender to you, we would find this beautiful turn where the things maybe that we had been chasing before to find meaning, and we thought, oh man, if I could just get to this place or this or that, whatever, we no longer need those things to have the fullness of joy and peace, because the fullness of joy and peace is found in Jesus. God, I pray that we would all be reminded that that is life. Fear God, keep his commandments. And once we do that, once we have that framework, suddenly I can see clearly now that things in this life were meant to be delighted in their proper way, so that anything and everything I do, whether it be what I eat or I drink or don't, can be to glorify God. May we glorify you, Jesus, this week by enjoying things that we have taken for granted, by stopping and slowing down a little bit to take stock of our lot in life, and instead of complaining about it or wishing it was something else, instead going, what a good gift God has given me. May we savor the goodness of Jesus more richly than we ever have before. Jesus, give us the power. In your name we pray. Amen.